The challenges faced by independent journalists across the world and also in India are many. What does one understand when one says independent journalism? Independent of whom? Independent of big business houses, big advertisers, government bodies, political parties, other groups, other influential groups. Can you be independent of all these? Yes, you can. If you command or if the work you do is appreciated by your readers, your listeners, and your viewers. But why are there so many challenges? Because you lack resources. You lack resources to produce, to research, to spend on dissemination. So all these constrain an independent journalist. She or he does not have the resources that a large organization can provide such a person. I was the principal author together with Subir Ghosh and Jyotirmoy Chaudhary when in April 2014 we published Gas Wars, Crony Capitalism and the Ambanis. Much of the media pretended the book hadn't been published. Then there were lawyers representing companies controlled by the Ambani siblings who served legal notices on me and my colleagues and my associates and those who were distributing the book. I mean, they went to ridiculous extent to serve a legal notice on a particular woman whose only quote-unquote misdemeanor or crime was that she had forwarded the electronic invitations for the launch function to people on a mailing list of an organization she was working with at that point of time and with which I was also associated. Yes, after the board of trustees of the Samiksha Trust, which owns the Economic and Political Weekly, asked me, directed me, ordered me to pull down an article which had been published. This happened on the 18th of July 2017. That article was pulled down from the website of the Economic and Political Weekly. It was republished on The Wire, on the website of The Wire, where it is still available. Lawyers representing Adani Power, this particular article dealt with a company called Adani Power, which is part of the Adani group of companies. The lawyer representing the Adani group moved a court in Bhuj, which is located near the special economic zone at Mundra in Gujarat in Western India, and that's where the one major power project of the Adani Power is located. Now, over a period of time, over a number of hearings, the judge ruled that in that 6,000 word article, I mean that article ran into roughly 6,000 words and it's still available on the website of The Wire, he suggested that part of a sentence and one adverb be removed. And as per our lawyer's suggestion, that particular part would be removed. But I see it and The Wire perceives it, and my co-authors also, I speak on their behalf, perceive it as a vindication of our position that that article, which dealt with an application submitted by Adani Power Limited for refund of customs duties to the tune of roughly 500 crore. That the argument is that that refund application should not have been made. And if the government had gone through with it, it would be tantamount to giving a bonanza to the company. So the substance of that article has not been challenged by the lower court. Aranipa has the right to appeal. We will know over a period of time whether this has happened or not, but I'm going on record saying the way this judgment has come, I see it as a vindication not only of me and my co-authors, 3 of them who put together this article, but The Wire, which republished it. For financial resources, I have been resorting to crowdfunding and the financial support of people who are my well-wishers. I've been a journalist for 40 years. I worked across the media. I worked in the print medium, I worked in radio, I worked in television, I've authored or co-authored books, published books. I've been a producer and a producer and director of documentary films. Now, over the years, there have been various occasions when powerful individuals representing organizations that are well endowed with resources, with adequate or more than adequate financial resources, human resources, when they cannot influence the outcome of independent journalism, they can resort to lawsuits. Typically, the long arm of the law can indeed be very long. The wheels of justice can grind very slowly, excruciatingly slowly. Lawyers can be very expensive. The judicial processes, the law enforcing processes can be very long, very cumbersome. All of these, in my experience, in my personal experience, has constrained independent journalism, including the work I've done. I think the space for free and independent journalism which is critical of those in positions of power and authority, adversarial journalism which takes antagonistic positions to those who are in power. This kind of journalism, the space for this kind of journalism, in my opinion, has shrunk in India since May 2014. It's not that previous regimes were favorably disposed towards journalists who were critical or who were investigating all kinds of scandals. But the present regime seems to be particularly intolerant of those who have been critical of important individuals in the regime. The Prime Minister does not hold open press conferences. It's a fact that websites like The Wire, which publish reports about the business affairs of the son of Mr. Amit Shah, the president of the Bharatiya Janata Party, has been served with legal notices. We also know what happened at the time of writing. Wire had gone, the representatives of Wire and the author of the article, Rohini Singh, were present at court, but the person who had accused them of allegedly defaming him, Mr. J. Amit Shah, was not present. This may or may not be an indication of the way this particular case would move, and time alone will tell. But there are a number of instances which show that the media in India at present has become extremely subservient to those who are in power. In India, we've seen that many major media organizations have apparently become more dependent on advertising income from government bodies as well as political parties, especially political parties, the political party which is in power in India at present, which is the Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, what does this mean? This means that much of the media in India are reluctant to publish unpleasant facts, unpleasant truths, facts which are critical of the current ruling regime. Now, this has definite implications on the nature and the working of the media. And earlier in India, and always been the government-owned media, in the case of India, Doordarshan, the public broadcaster, the television broadcaster, which is part of Prasar Bharati, which is also includes All India Radio or Akashvani, these organizations have always put out information which favors the government, which has not been critical of the government. And I think the autonomy of Prasar Bharati Corporation is truly farcical. It might as well be a department of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Be that as it may, the new development, the new phenomenon is that we see a substantial section of the privately owned media becoming more loyal than the king. They can only criticize the opposition and not the ruling regime. The social media across the world and also in India have become very, very big. The day is not far when the number of users on Facebook will exceed the combined population of India and China, which is approximately 40% of the population of the planet. So the social media is part of our lives, which we cannot ignore. But like the internet, it's the classic double-edged sword. It's like the scalpel, that sharp knife, in the hands of a skilled surgeon. It can remove a diseased part of a human being's body, and make that person a healthier human being. But that same sharp knife, that same scalpel, can be used to injure, to maim, and even kill another person. So the internet cuts both ways. Just as we see the internet and modern technology, the smartphones that are being used, can empower an ordinary individual, an ordinary citizen to become a journalist, an investigative journalist. That same internet is used to propagate false information, fake news. This is the day and age, not just of misinformation. You can be genuinely misinformed. This is the day and age of disinformation, where there are interested groups, interested individuals, paid for individuals who deliberately disseminate information which is false, which is untrue, which is inaccurate, and they're paid for it often. The trolls, the battalions and the armies of the trolls, the anonymity that the internet provides to trollers emboldens them to use abusive language, to use hateful language, to create tensions in society, as they have in India and other parts of the world, resulted in enmity, social tensions, members of two communities causing hurt and to each other. So, in this day and age of fake news, it's become, and the day and age of trollers. Remember, these trollers are anonymous, but the people they target are real human beings with real Twitter handles. The pictures you see on their Facebook account are their own pictures. So, it's become very, very important to support those initiatives which counter fake news, which do fact-checking for you, which tell you which pictures are morphed, which videos are manipulated. Across the world and also in India, investigative journalists and investigative journalism are finding it, increasingly difficult to raise resources for research, for travel, for interviews, for a whole lot of other activities, seeking the services of experts. And we see that given the fact that many large mainstream media organizations, their resources have been squeezed, their finances are no longer as healthy as they used to be, maybe even 10 or 15 years ago, and they're actually scrimping and they're scrounging and not spending enough on investigative journalism. This is the situation across the world. So where does the money come from? Will it come from research organizations, from non-government bodies, even government bodies? Crowdfunding, large numbers of individuals giving small donations, or international non-government organizations like the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, which has been responsible for putting together teams of journalists in over 80 countries in the world. The Panama Papers, the Paradise Papers are two such examples. So is this the way forward? Probably. Much of independent journalism may have to be funded no longer by mainstream media organizations, but by foundations, by trusts, by philanthropies, and above all, by large numbers of people who believe in specific causes for which investigations or media investigations are required.